Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Ajoe21love, here with another episode of Sports Overview of Topics number 31. This is my second time recording this. I had some issues yesterday, but hopefully today things are better. So thank you all for joining me. If you're new to the podcast, like and subscribe. Go on the bell for all your sports reviews or predictions, anything. Also, my pro wrestling reviews. You can find it all on the channel. Thank you, and tune in to any of these episodes. Find all your content newsworthy. So today it was a very interesting sports weekend as far as football is concerned, as well as basketball is concerned. Emotional, but for starters, we'll go over the divisional round weekend of the NFL. We had four solid good games with emotional elements, win or go home in the playoffs. But, we saw some very good teams go home, and that's just how it is. So, starting on Saturday, we had the Rams versus the Packers, the number 6 seed Rams. Last week, they knocked out the division winner Seahawks in Seattle. Of course, no 12s there, unfortunately. But the Rams held together behind their number 1 ranked defense. And this case, again, they try to follow suit, along with Jared Goff, once again recovering from his broken thumb. He suffered in Week 16, going up against the number 1 seed Packers, who had the bye, the all-important bye, the only bye that in the NFC. And this was a tight game for the most part. It was 3-3. Packers were driving down, and was a touchdown to Devontae Adams, which took the lead 10-3. Then it was 19-10 with the Rams driving down, getting a touchdown. At halftime, the Rams fired back. It was 25-18 late after a touchdown wildcat by Cam Akers, and it looked to be that the Rams defense could most part keep them into this until off play action, a big touchdown from Aaron Rodgers to Allen Lazard broke the game open 32-18. The Rams couldn't score anything after that, and thus the Packers advance and will host the NFC Championship game on Sunday. The first time in Aaron Rodgers' career that he will host a NFC Championship game. In 2010, when they won the Super Bowl, they went to Chicago. In 2014, they went to Seattle. 2016, they went to Atlanta. In 2018, last year, they went to San Fran. This year, they will host in Green Bay, in which should be very cold and very snowy. Very interesting. As for the Rams go, they had a good season. They were the number 1 ranked defense for a reason. Aaron Donald, he wasn't healthy. Cooper Kupp, he wasn't there to a knee injury. They missed him. I mean, Goff, he made a few plays, but still, he wasn't 100%. I mean, hats off to the Rams. They won. Yeah, they won 10 games. Not much you can say, and they beat their rival Seahawks, but unfortunately, they were trounced by the Packers, and one moves on, one goes home. Simple. Then going to the next game on Saturday, we had the Bills go up against the Ravens. Now, the Bills, they won a tight game last week against the Colts with some questionable officiating. Seems like in every game these playoffs, there's some sort of questionable officiating. And the Ravens, I almost said the Rams. The Ravens last week won a tight game against the Titans. And you kind of thought, with everything going around, that the Ravens would have an advantage with the way they like to run the ball and the way the Colts ran the ball on the Bills last week. That was not to be this game. It was a tight game, windy game, a very windy game in Orchard Park in Buffalo. It was 3-3 at the half. To show you how windy it was and how crazy it was, Justin Tucker, who rarely misses a field goal, missed 2 in the first half. Tied it up at the end of the first half, 3-3. But it was really interesting to see how both teams come out in the second half, and the Bills came out ready to play. Stephon Diggs made a few plays. He had over 100 yards on the day. And they scored with a touchdown to go up 10-3, but the Ravens came fired back, and they were down the field inside the 10-yard line when all of a sudden Lamar Jackson throws a 101-yard interception, pick six, to Teron Johnson, and that just opened the game up, and the Ravens, and this was the final nail in the coffin when Lamar Jackson, snap went over his head, and he took a hard hit in the end zone and was concussed and was out for the rest of the game. Tyler Huntley, he came in, made a few nice plays, but they never could really take the momentum back from the Bills. And thus the Bills move on to the AFC title game. The Ravens, when they after that gun-wrenching defeat in overtime to the Titans, they fired back, winning 5 straight to make the playoffs, and then beat the Titans last week. This week, they still need to work on that passing game. They still need more weapons on offense in order to take that next step for this offense. And, not much you could say. Their defense hung tight, but the Bills move on. And they were scoreboard watching the next game to figure out if they would stay home or they would have to go on the road. And speaking of that game, Browns-Chiefs on Sunday. This was interesting. You were curious how the Browns would come out after winning that game that was closer on the scoreboard than what it was, being the Steelers in Pittsburgh last week. How would they respond to their first playoff win in over a quarter century against the defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs, who were coming off a bye, hadn't played in 3 weeks, their starters, and the Chiefs were rolling on offense. They were ahead 16-3 late. The Browns made some quality plays in the first drive, but kind of lost their game plan and kind of Jedrick Wills, their left tackle, he went out to start the game, and then Kendall Lamb, who filled in for Wills, went out, and it was Blake Hance, who filled in last week for Michael Dunn, who filled in for Joel Bitonio. That's how crazy the NFL gets, people. But now the questionable call that everybody's talking about when it comes to this game was at the end of the first half, the Browns are driving down, and Baker Mayfield hits a good pass to Rashard Higgins inside the 5. He reaches for the goal line. He fumbles out of the end zone, which is touchback, but the other questionable call is Daniel Sorensen, the safety, hit helmet to helmet. Now, when he saw it, it is questionable, but still, it should be a penalty with what they're calling now helmet to helmet. And it was not called, and the Chiefs got the ball back, came down, kicked a field goal to go up ahead 19-3 and set up potentially a one-score game. And then next thing you know, so the second half, the Browns came out trying to rebound. They did score a touchdown. It was 19-10 after a interception by Baker Mayfield. Their defense hung down. The Chiefs then fired back, kicked a field goal to go up ahead 22. Patrick Mahomes, he actually went out with a concussion. And the Chiefs' offense, as you can imagine, was kind of iffy after. Chad Henne came in through a pick. The Browns scored to make it a 5-point game, 22-17. But when the Browns needed it most to get a stop, the Chiefs just did not let up, and they hold on to win 22-17. And I hate these pop-ups. But the Browns win, the Chiefs win. The Browns suffer defeat and go back home to Cleveland. The Chiefs move on and will host the Bills in the AFC title game next week, and what should be a thriller. The Browns, Cleveland fans, they waited 18 years to be in the playoffs, and they finally got their moment. They're back again, and they won a playoff game in Pittsburgh last week. For a team that was the doormat of the NFL for many years. And now with Kevin Stefanski, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, the O-line, Baker Mayfield, Myles Garrett, Jarvis Landry, and so much more, they are in the right direction, and it's good to see the Browns relevant again. Yes, it's unfortunate that they went out like this, but Cleveland, it was a successful season considering where they were, and they won 12 games this season. So good for Cleveland and good for Kansas City. Then the grand finale of Divisional Round weekend. Tom Brady versus Drew Brees, round 3 of this season. The Bucs go to the Saints again. Where they started the season would be the way they ended the season. Well, it was tight throughout 3 quarters. It was 13-13 at half. Next thing you know, it's 20-20. Saints are driving down. Jared Cook fumbles thanks to Antoine Winfield, which led to a Buccaneers touchdown to go up 27-20. Or excuse me, 23-20. And then they ultimately scored a touchdown later on after another interception by Brees. I mean, first off, I want to go over the Buccaneers. You know, it wasn't pretty. I mean, Mike Evans, Gronk, Antonio Brown, they were virtually non-existent. It was mostly Godwin, the running game, the defense, and Cameron Brate showed up. But it wasn't pretty, but they got it done. Tom Brady, he continues to amaze at his age. What he has brought to the Buccaneers organization cannot be overstated. Last year, the Buccaneers were a 7-9 football team that Jameis Winston, he threw 30 interceptions. And, still, they went 7-9. This case, you think to yourself, okay, only the Bucs or only one of the excuse me, I had a little brain fart, but the next QB, you think to yourself, okay, if they cut down on picks, then this is a winning football team. And Tom Brady, 43 touchdowns, 11 picks in the regular season, and takes them to 11 wins and first playoff berth in 13 years. And they won in Washington last week. This week, they get revenge on the Saints, who beat them twice in the regular season. And they move on to Lambeau next Sunday to face the Packers in another rematch, which should be fun. As for the Saints go, they were without Taysom Hill, which you could see took out an element in their offense. another chain mover. Now, credit Alvin Kamara did well. Drew Brees made a few good throws to Emmanuel Sanders and Jared Cook. However, you could just tell something was missing. And that added element, Taysom Hill, he was not out there. Now, credit, they still scored 20 points and had the momentum before Jared Cook fumbled. But after it just unraveled for the Saints. I mean, Deontay Harris, he was out for most of the game. He was a key contributor with 2 great returns in the first quarter, but it just things unraveled for the Saints and they just couldn't regain it. And there were talks, there were rumors, rumblings that this was going to be Drew Brees' last game or his last year, certainly. And add more emotion and more drama going into this game. And then it finally hit you, if you're a Saints fan, any fan in general in the NFL, that this is the last game of one of the best QBs of all time. Whether you love him, whether you hate him, you can't help but respect him. 20 years in the league, Drew Brees. He was a trailblazer pretty much for QBs under small quarterbacks, basically. I mean, 6 foot, which is probably the only reason he went in the second round. I mean, you look at his career, you look at how he was with the Chargers, and you're like, how did he? I mean, credit to Michael Vick, but when you look at how both careers have panned out, Drew Brees played like the guy that should have been taken first overall, ultimately, when you look at career-wise. And what he and Sean Payton brought to the Saints, bring them back to relevance after being the Aints. And, their first year, they went to the NFC Championship game and played the Bears, the monsters of the Midway. And from that point on, you knew that this was a culture change in New Orleans. And from that point on, in 2009, they won Super Bowl 44 over Peyton Manning and the almost undefeated Colts. And then running back, 5,000-yard seasons by Drew Brees. Not much people can say that. Not much QBs had one, nonetheless. But he had 5 numerous seasons. He never won an MVP. 2011, you look at it, he probably should have won MVP over Aaron Rodgers. I think when you look at the team, but no matter how you look at it, Drew Brees, one of those QBs that did it right. And I'm no Saints fan, but I got emotional knowing that one of the best QBs that I saw for a decade play is hanging up. Now, next year, he'll be in NBC Studios, help calling games. Should be a good play-by-play or color commentator, whichever analyst you want to say. But Drew Brees, his last game. Thank you, Drew, for a great career. He did right. Now, before I get into my predictions for the conference title games, I have some news on the NBA matters. So, the big news is James Harden came to the Brooklyn Nets what he wanted in a 4-team trade, and he and KD in their first couple games together have been rolling, especially without Kyrie. He has been absent for reasons I don't want to get into that much, but reasons nonetheless. But good for Brooklyn. KD and James Harden have been rolling. I would not be surprised. I mean, you look at the Eastern Conference, and besides the Celtics, Bucs, and 76ers, there's not a lot of teams that scare you. And I wouldn't be surprised if they made the Eastern Conference Finals point blank. As for the Western part, the Western Conference, Kristaps Porzingis, he returned. He and Luka will definitely be fun to watch. Luka's already fun to watch, but getting that element back for Dallas in a loaded Western Conference is something they need, and to take that next step, and it'll be fun to watch. Now, getting to my AFC, NFC title game picks. We're almost at the end, but it's been a crazy season, but I'm not sure many thought that we'd be able to get through this whole season, but we're almost through, and it's credit to everyone, and football is entertaining, and now getting into the conference title games. So, starting off with the doubleheader on Sunday, NFC Championship, Buccaneers going to Green Bay in what should be freezing, what should be cold, playing the Packers. Now, these two played early in the season. It was 38-10, a blowout by Tampa Bay. The Buccaneers, as we've seen, won 11 games. They beat Washington. They beat the Saints, rolling into this game. The Packers as well, Aaron Rodgers, point blank, should be the MVP. What he has done since the team drafted Jordan Love is nothing short of remarkable. 48 touchdowns, 5 picks. I mean, just man. And that defense has been really tough as of late. We saw them how they played against the Rams. I mean, it's Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers. Now, you might say that, well, Tampa Bay is a warm weather team, but Tom Brady, their quarterback, has 20 years of experience in cold weather New England. So I think he'll be prepared for facing the Packers. The Packers, their defense has buckled down, like I said. Their offense just continues to be on fire, and mostly that's due to the performance of Aaron Rodgers. This is a tough game. Close game, could go either way. The Buccaneers, I just think this is their chance, and they'll take it. Buccaneers win 31-27, and the Bucs are the first home team in the Super Bowl era to have a home game in the Super Bowl. Should be interesting. And then the main event, the basic creme de la creme. Bills Chiefs in Arrowhead. Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Josh Allen and the Bills have been running into the postseason red hot. Josh Allen, if Aaron Rodgers hadn't been doing what he's doing this year, Josh Allen would be presumably the MVP. Patrick Mahomes and Chiefs, we know they're great, and he battled through adversity despite him getting concussed against the Browns. This is another tough matchup, and momentum is a key part. And when you look at things, the Browns had the formula to beat the Chiefs. That is why I picked them to upset the Chiefs. The Bills, they don't run the ball like the Browns do or the Raiders do. But they have that electric quarterback, Josh Allen. And I think they'll be more ready for the Chiefs than they were back in early the season in rainy Buffalo. So, with that, I'm going with the Bills to win 28-24, signaling that we have the Bills and Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. Now, it could go either way. It could go Chiefs-Packers, but I just have my feeling, and these picks could blow up in my face, but we'll see. But with that, that's the episode, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I did. It was fun. I'll see y'all back on Thursday, like I said, with my AEW Dynamite review. If you're new, like and subscribe. Click on the bell. Help out a lot. So thank you all. I am Ajoe21love, and I'll be out.